Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I got for you today is something that I felt we need to talk about. It's something that I've talked before with some of my subscribers, especially on Discord, about, and homies in general, just like about moving on from certain things, and how this leads into another topic of conversation I had a while ago called tempering your expectations. Um, it's really a self-defeating property. Whenever you are looking forward to something new, you're automatically going to compare it to the past, and you're automatically going to want to bring over the things that you liked from the past and get rid of or change the things that you did not like. This is like basic 101 for most humans. Like, we pretty much tend to only enjoy the parts we enjoy and want to get rid of the rest. An example of this could be if somebody's favorite game was Soul Calibur 5, but they super loved Patroclus, for example, but they didn't necessarily like his alpha form, perhaps. Like, if they wanted him to come over to the reboot, perhaps they'd say get rid of Alpha Patroclus and keep him with a similar character design, but just like change around certain portions of his personality and such. That's just an example. I've noticed this because when I've had conversations with people about Soul Calibur 7, I've tend to delve into these things myself, and I've seen a lot of similar topics coming up when we're actually bringing it up. And I just wanted to give some kind of exercises or kind of things that we can keep in mind when we're actually talking about this to kind of, again, temper our expectations for the future installment. So, one of the biggest things that I see with Soul Calibur 6 is its comparison to other games. People say, I don't like Libra of Souls because it's nowhere near as good as Chronicles of the Sword. Or, I don't like Soul Calibur 6 tower, there's no tower system. Or how come we don't have, the area effects unless you're in Libra and stuff like that. Like, it's based on, how come it doesn't play as well as Soul Calibur 2. A lot of these things are based on prior engagements with prior versions of the game that no longer really apply to this version of the game, but we all fall for it. I do too. Every single time a new Soul Calibur game comes out after 4, I'm like, man, I really wish they'd bring back Shura and the other bonus characters that the mangaka created, though I'm not exactly sure it would... It can happen based on licensing because, they'd have to pay out the original artists and perpetually pay them, so it depends on how big their budget is and how willing they're going. But just seeing them somehow kind of similar to how we saw like Chester or Arthur in Libra of Souls mode, just a tidbit of them, even if it's within the creation engine. I've done this myself, and I always have to temper my own expectations and say, well, the likelihood of this happening is not equal to or co-equal to what I want it to actually be, right? The chances of this happening are far slimmer than it actually happening, so I should pretty much prepare for it not to happen, and then if it does happen, then I'm going to have a better time and a better experience myself. This isn't for saying that we shouldn't criticize things that we dislike from these games. This is just kind of helping ourselves with getting more enjoyment and fulfillment out of these games that we're paying like $70 for, you know what I mean? It's not like an exactly one-to-one comparison, I know, but when we're looking at Soul Calibur 7 and I'm coming up with all these ideas for videos for Soul Calibur 7 for the lead-up, a lot of the places that I'm going to are comparisons to past games, like what do I want changed? And I don't think we often talk about what we want to stay the same or what we want to be expanded upon, because I've gone on record before saying that Libra of Souls, I hated it at first, but then I ended up loving the mode after I changed my own headcanon and got into the world that it was trying to present me with. And yes, presentation wise, there's a vast amount of improvements that can be made upon that system, especially the traveling system, the constant text bubbles, like the very few sporadic cinematics. There's a lot of things that they can and should change, and I think they will change with a larger budget. But there are things that we can do to kind of prepare ourselves for that inevitability of being disappointed in certain ways. There's a lot of people who hate Soul Calibur 5, and there's a lot of people that love it, right? From doing this YouTube channel, I thought it was pretty much universal that everyone hated Soul Calibur 5, even though I did play Soul Calibur 5 up until Soul Calibur 6 released, and even a bit beyond, because the character creation engine is so good in that game. It's the one area where it really shines. But a lot of the people that are in my camp that kind of generally don't like it as much as the other games, I want to say, is because of narrative and because of like replacing all of our favorite characters and the risks that it took when it came to you know, focusing completely on the esports scene and all of that stuff. A lot of that stuff we just weren't having. So the narration and the return to form with Soul Calibur 6 was really a breath of fresh air. And a lot of us were really critical and harsh on it. I've actually done, I think, 3 reviews in total for Soul Calibur 6. I did one when the game launched, in which I was disappointed. I did one midway through. I believe I did one after Huang came out, like a year ago. And then I did an updated one, like, more recently. And you can see my opinions of the game progressively change as this is the game that we have that we're playing. Because whenever we have a first form product, it's going to be very rare that we're going to get the most fulfillment and enjoyment out of that product, like, off the jump. Like, moving beyond that initial title screen and the music, where, like, your nostalgia is going to be played into, which will automatically trigger those memories of the past games, which will automatically lend to being compared to those last games. It's really hard to get away from that, but I think it's something that, like, we should try to at least practice in practice. Like, it's something that we should kind of lend ourselves to, you know what I mean? Like, it's, like, really hard to do so, because I'm guilty of this too. Soul Calibur 3 is my favorite Soul Calibur game, and then after that, Soul Edge and Soul Blade, they're my favorites. So my entire history of looking at these games is comparing them to the past games. But we should really be looking at it from a couple different standpoints. And the first standpoint that I want to go to is narrative. Now, this lends into canon, this lends into character development, this lends into how the stories are told, all of that stuff. I think this is really important for single-player people and casuals and people who aren't mainly online. And even those who are online, because they can actually find out more about their character and become more invested in the character that they main. But if it leaves off from the place that it finalized and it takes it to a conclusion where, like, not only that we were logically seeing it go, but that we think is satisfying for the characters and who they are. It's not saying everyone gets a happy ending or anything like that. It's just, like, leading to the conclusion of, like, oh, Voldo returns to guard his master's cave, you know, his treasure. Stuff that just, like, is a part of the character norm, but, like, still gives them enough of a hero's journey where, like, they can actually grow from something, whether that be going more towards the dark side or becoming more good or heroic. None of this is to say that, like, any of that kind of narration changes are bad per se. It's just consistency is what I'm talking about. It's where are these characters going in Soul Calibur 6 and where are they headed to in Soul Calibur 7 and beyond. That's where the narrative is going to play a key vital role for me. It's not just like I want to see what I want to see. It's I want to see a fulfillment of a good story. And in order to do so, the narration needs to be treated with kid gloves almost. It needs to be very, I don't want to say by the numbers, because I do like some risk taking when it comes to narration, like twists and turns and whatnot. Like I think Huang is a perfect example of that, but you get what I'm saying. And I think the second part is gameplay, obviously. There can't be too much of a crazy difference between gameplay. Soul Calibur is one of those fighting games where, because the directors and the team changes, like, with almost every game, there's always a new idea that somebody has. It's like, this is what's really going to put Soul Calibur into the forefront, which we gotta know Soul Calibur is pretty niche when it comes compared to, like, all the other big games that are out there. I think the only one that's, like, maybe comparable is, like, I think it's more popular in Virtual Fighter. I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a lot of bigger games out there, especially like Tekken and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, things of that nature. But they always come in with this new idea, like, let's implement this awesome system called Reversal Edge, which 90% of us hate, right? And, like, even the competitive players are like, listen, I don't use it, but I know well enough how to defend against it that, like, I don't have to encounter it. It's not that big of a problem. But if you ask anybody what's the biggest issue with Soul Calibur 6's gameplay, I'm gonna go out there on a limb and say, like, 80%, these statistics are coming out of my butt, but it's like 80% of people are probably gonna tell you that they hate it or they want it removed. The other, like, 10% are like, it's easy to dodge, so who cares? And the other 10% are probably like, I love it because I love spamming it, and that's the only way that I can get wins online, and you know who you are. So I just think that, like, if they're coming into Soul Calibur 7, I don't want to see some crazy new mode that, like, is going to upturn the entire tide of battle. Like, keep things to the simple formula that you have them, improve upon the speed, the combo strengths, like the drop rates, the frames, completely go ham with all that stuff. But when you're getting rid of systems like Just Guard and Perfect Guard, replacing with like parry, and like when you're getting rid of systems and replacing them with things like Reversal Edge. A lot of people don't like Soul Charge either, which I love Soul Charge because I think it adds a comeback mechanic to the game that wasn't there before. The only thing that I can see them saying is like, I don't want a character's entire moveset locked behind like a single use per round thing. It's much better that they have all of their combo strings available from the jump, and then like we can replace Soul Charge with something else like a stat boost or something. So I can understand some of that, but I personally like Soul Charge. But the thing that, especially when it changes some characters' forms, but the thing that like a lot of people are saying that I would have to agree with is that those kinds of systems that they enjoy from the past shouldn't necessarily be reflected on the current game. It should be looked at as a whole new thing independent of itself, but I still want those systems in play because that's what at the heart of what Soul Calibur is. Think of if we started playing Mortal Kombat 12, right? And the next Mortal Kombat was not the button input delay-based system that it usually is. Let's say that they turn it into like a hack and slash, like Devil May Cry type game. As awesome as that would be, we would consider that like a standalone, separate game, not part of the mainline series. And things have happened like that with Mortal Kombat. Like Mortal Kombat 8, for example, which is Mortal Kombat versus DC. A lot of people thought that that was like a weak side game, but it turns out that it was Mortal Kombat 8 because the game we got after that was Mortal Kombat 9. So they completely considered it Mortal Kombat 8. People were pissed. I personally enjoyed the game for what it was, but a lot of people, I can understand why they just wanted their Mortal Kombat fix and why like half the roster was missing because they wanted to make up for these DC characters who they probably don't care about. So I can kind of see it with that. I happen to be a comic nerd, so I love that kind of stuff. But the third and final thing that I want to say is what needs to be focused on and carried over beyond being changed, like moving on, if you will, is the online aspects and modes. Like, there needs to be a robust mode system that's put in place, and this is where I think it is possible to compare it to past games. It's like when you have a game like Soul Calibur 5 that came after Soul Calibur 4, it's like, well, where are the towers? Okay, you have this endless card battle system where you're playing creative characters, but where are the towers? Where are, like, the you know, all the different Libra of Souls, for example, like, where's all those kind of modes? Like, I remember Tekken 7, one of the biggest things that I was mad about Tekken 7 is the narrative direction change. They completely changed up how the narration was depicted and how it was presented by giving it from the standpoint of a one narrator who's like that singular guy. And then I also didn't like that they took out Tekken Force mode, which is like, you know, the Devil Within, or like that stuff where you're like doing the run around beat 'em up. That story mode stuff has been around for a long time, and Soul Calibur 7 completely just like didn't include that. And I can see that not being included in the arcade version of the game, but they really should have developed something for the home console and PC versions of that game. And that really still to this day upsets me that that kind of mode is not in there, because I shouldn't have to go back and play Tekken 6 or Tekken 5 if I want to like enjoy it for what it is. And I'm sure a lot of people understand that, and some people may disagree, which I mean, your opinions are valid as well. I'm sure you have your reasons, but all in all, not to make this video drag on too long, I just want to say that yes, it's up to the developers to fulfill our wishes when it comes to what we desire as a whole for the game, right? We're the ones buying the game, we're the ones paying for the product, and we expect a product that reflects us. The problem is not everybody wants the same thing, and not enough research and poll research is done as to what people want to see. The developers just do their own thing with the budget they have, and they put out their product, and we either judge it on an art basis as like being valid or not, or good or not, or we simply ignore it as one of those missteps and hope that the next one turns out better. And I just want to try to curb all those things, and I want to just try and say, let's go into Mortal Kombat 12, Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, Soul Calibur 7, yes. All of these things I want to go into with a fresh state of mind. So let our expectations be there, but let them not take our overall judgment of the game into consideration. So let's play the game and judge the systems based on their own merits and their own, you know, thing that they're trying to accomplish and do. Like, are they doing well with that? Is the narration consistent? Are there enough modes there for us? Is the gameplay mechanics up to par? Once we judge those things, then we can like throw everything out the wind and start judging based on past games and stuff like that. But with that being said, guys, I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, and as well as on my Discord, which you can join. There's a link in the description box below. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm really trying to chug up there to 2,000 subscribers, and it's taken longer than I thought, but I am still happy with the progress that we're making. And I also have a lot of good tiers for members. So if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, those are ways and options of showing me that I'm doing the right thing and helping out the channel and being a part of the Yoon-Fam. But with that being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. As I always say, I love it. Thank you.
And thank you.